Hey everyone, it's Bobby from Dig Coding here, and in this video, I will show you how to Dockerize a Django app that uses Celery and Redis. Why do we want to do this? Well, web apps and complicated applications in general need a whole bunch of different developers that may have different machines and operating systems. So Docker is a surefire way of eliminating the "it doesn't work on my machine" issue. So that's what we're going to do in this tutorial. Let's jump straight into it. So we'll be following along with this here. It's on my website. The link to this page is in the description below. This is the tutorial that I've put together to support this video. So we'll be following this from top to bottom. The link to the repo on GitHub is also in the description below. And this is it here. We've got two branches. We'll be cloning down from main. You can see there is a Docker branch here. So this is the project in its entirety. Will be cloning main. So if you want to clone down the Docker branch, it has all of the code there and you can tinker away and be my guest. But we'll be cloning down from main and we'll be then building all of the Docker configurations to make sure that this all works. So let's jump straight into it. This little part of the page here is, shall I zoom in a little bit? You can probably see it a bit better now. A bit more. There we go. So this is the intro. The video which we're recording right now is here. You can click that and it will play this video. This is the repo here. You can also clone down from the GitHub repository. That's what I just said about. It's the Docker branch, and this here will do exactly that. Okay, but let's jump into it. So in terms of a syllabus, we'll be cloning down the GitHub repository. We'll be configuring Django, we'll be configuring Docker, and then we'll be testing it. Okay, so where we want to be at the end of this is we want to fire up the Docker compose file, and then we can visit localhost 8000, sign up, and then we'll be using Celery to send an email. Now we'll be using Flower to log that task, so we can actually see what's happening in the task, whether it's a success or a failure. We'll be using Flower for that. Okay, so prerequisites, we'll be using Gmail again. So if you haven't already watched this video, a link to which is up here. It will show you how to get a Google app password. I've done this in the past and I've had to actually generate an app password on the fly because for some reason it doesn't always like it. I think it's when you're setting up different machines, different projects, it needs a different app password. So we may or may not have to do that. It's very, very easy to do. And also you will need to download and install the latest version of Docker and Docker Compose on your machine. And this is what it looks like. So I've already downloaded it. It's already up and running on my machine. I'll let that fire up. And okay, so setup. Firstly, let's get our code. This is Docker now firing up, so I'll just minimize that. Navigate to your development directory and create a new project directory. Open Visual Studio Code in your new directory. The easiest way to do this is to click into the directory address and type cmd. This will open a new command prompt. To open Visual Code Studio, you can use the following code here. Okay, so what we'll do is we will create the directory in our development directory. It doesn't make, there we go. So we're in demos there, CMD. I might need to make that a little bit bigger as well. It's not liking it. Right, we'll paste that in there. That'll make the correct directory, and then we will just put code. I'm using Visual Studio Code as a text editor. Others are available. However, I like Visual Studio Code. So there we have it. We are now in the directory that we've just created, okay? This will open Visual Studio Code. Open a new Git terminal in Visual Studio Code and add the following commands. So we'll copy that. We'll go back into Visual Studio Code, open up a terminal. Don't want that. Can we see this a little bit bigger? It's probably going to be a bit more helpful. Just look at my screen. I'm using OBS, so I can kind of see what you're seeing, albeit a little bit smaller. So we're in, let's open up a Git bash. Okay, so I can right click, get it all in there. So it's cloning it down. It's asking me for a password. It is a public repository, so you won't need to. So we then want to copy the .env.template and add it to a .env file. So what we're doing, we're creating an environment file, And this is what will be used to send different variables into our project. Okay, so I'll copy that. That might even need to be just copy env template.env. Will that work? There we go. So the copy command is for Windows, CP is for Unix. So, okay, so we've now got this env file from the env.template file. So if I just go through the directory configuration, so we've got a readme file, we've got a git ignore file, and then we've got the project in backend. These are the ones we've just created. So the template env, and we've just copied it into this. So this is what we'll be working on in the project. But this is the back end. So this is the Django project. Okay, so this is what the Django project is called. Did Django schedule jobs v2. We've got requirements. So we now we've got a base text. So this is all the requirements for the project. Got a static. So this is where we're serving up static files. In this case, it's CSS. We've got a users app. So if you followed along in the last video, you'll see what we did here. We've created an app that allows the users to sign up, sign out. It's just using some general Django built-in operations and functions and what have you. So that's the project. That's the directory configuration. Let's go back here. We don't need to be in git bash for any of this now. Go back into the tutorial. Okay, so remove the following variables from the newly created .env file. We don't need them anymore. Okay, we don't need them because in the settings.py file, we've got a default. So if it finds those variables in the env file, then it uses them. If it doesn't, then it defaults to the correct ones in this case. And we did that in the last video. So go into .env file, remove those. Okay, save. That's all we need for the Django setup. So the Docker setup, let's create a Docker file and an entry.sh file. Open a new terminal in Visual Studio Code and use the following command. So we'll copy that. And we'll just dump it in there. So we're going to CD in a backend, and then we're going to use echo to create a Docker file and echo to create an entry point.sh. So we press enter, go back in the backend or into backend. You can see we now created a Docker file. It's empty, there's nothing in there. And an entry point.sh. Food for thought, let me just minimize because you won't see it otherwise. You can see this Docker is defaulted to CRLF. It's no good, it won't work. You need to change that to LF. Same with the entry point. Okay, and you'll need to do that with a Docker compose file. That will come up with an error if you don't. Save, entry point, just save. Okay. There is a note on this tutorial somewhere about it. I think it's right at the bottom. Where is it? There we go. Look, no, if you experience any errors in Docker, then you need to change the Docker files to LF instead of CLF. CRLF. So, okay, that's where we are. We have created the Docker file and entry point sh. Add the following code to the newly created Docker file. Copy, Visual Studio Code, Docker file, paste, and save. And add the following code to the entry point. Control A, but there we go. Save. And then it will say, so what have we done here? Okay, so we've started off by creating a Docker file. A Docker file is a text document that contains all the commands a user could call on the command line to assemble an image. Using Docker build, users can create an automated build that executes several command line instructions in succession. We begin with the official Python 3.9 Docker image from Python 3.9. This isn't a Docker tutorial, okay? This isn't a drains up on Docker. I'm assuming that you've used Docker before, so I won't go into great detail. I can do another tutorial about Docker in another time, but this is just going a kind of a quick whistle-stop tour of what we're doing here to Dockerize, just a very, very basic Dockerization of a Django project. So we are then, we set some environment variables. So Python, don't write bytecode. This will remove .pyc files from our container. So these are just some environment variables. We install the necessary dependencies. So what we're doing there is we're running apt-get update and apt-get, and we install netcat. Okay, so these are the dependencies for the project to work. Okay, Now, it depends on your requirements on your actual project. You might need to add to that or remove some, but we need these on this particular project. We're then running make directory. So we're creating a directory called code. Okay, I will show you where that directory lives when we have it all up and running. We bash into the Docker container. We copy the code, so our project, into that directory, and then we make that directory the working directory. Okay, so that's what these three are doing. We then pip install, upgrade pip, so we upgrade in the pip library, and then we install everything that is in base.txt. So requirements, base.txt. Okay? We then, what else have we got here? If it's not used in any subsequent Docker file instruction, we won't update pip. Okay, we're then adding the correct permissions to our Celery log and entry point files. An entry point allows you to configure a container that will run on an executable. In our case, we are flushing and then migrating to our database. Okay, so we're adding the right permissions here to the entry point, and then the Celery log file, which we haven't created yet. But this is the log file that is documented in Docker file, and this is where the Celery log should go, and this is why we're putting it in there. And the entry point is saying it is in code entrypoint.sh. Okay, so this is just the Docker file. These are the commands that are being run in succession. Okay, we'll need a Docker compose file to call this, and we'll do that in a second. Where are we? Oh yeah, the entrypoint.sh. Okay, so these are the commands that we will be running on the container itself. So you'd be familiar with these commands in the Django project. So it's python manage.py, then we flush database, then we manage.py, make migrations, and then we migrate to the database. Okay, so we're migrating our models, our tables to the database. So these will be all the authentication tables, all of the user app tables or models. Okay, so we can go ahead and create a Docker compose file, add the following to your terminal. So we want to cd back to the main directory, and then we want to echo and create Docker compose YML. Okay, so let's bring this up. It's a bit awkward that it has to be so big, but it means it's a little bit easier for you to see. There we go. So a cd back. So we're then in the main directory here, and echoed, we made Docker compose YML. So this one's now just been produced and it's in the main directory. There's nothing in there. Okay, we now need to add the following code. This didn't work when I was playing around with it earlier because the white space was all messed up. It looks like that's right. Okay, so just added that all in there. Just make sure there's no errors. It looks like we're all good. Oh, FYI, the last video we were using the straight out of the box SQLite or SQLite 3 database that comes straight in the box from Django. In this one, we're using PostgreSQL. Okay, just that. If you're looking at this, you're wondering why we're doing that. It's because this is the normal configuration I do on a project. So we are now at this point. So it describes what we're doing in this compose file. So Docker Compose is a tool for defining and running multi-container Docker applications. So we'll be having many different containers. We'll have a database, we'll have an app, we'll have Celery, we'll have Redis. In production, we'll have Nginx and things like that. Okay, so our Docker Compose file defines the configuration of the application services. Then, with a single command, we can create and start all the services from in our Docker Compose file. Okay, and that command will be Docker Compose build. Okay, you will notice that we are using Flower to handle the monitoring and administration of Celery. So it will be on port 5555. So the normal project will be running on 8000, which is standard. But if we visit localhost 5555, we will see the tasks in Flower. It's really helpful, and it will also do a bit of a traceback if there's an error in the task itself. We will need to add this dependency to the requirements. Whilst we're at it, we should also add PostgreSQL requirements as well. Remember, we're not using the SQLite 3 database, so we need the PsychoPG2 binary. So we'll add that. Copy, go back into project, go into requirements, go into base, and we can just drop them at the bottom here. It's not the end of the world, and save them in there. You will also notice that we need to create a new directory and Python file to capture the Celery logs. Use the following command to create this. So we're going back to the main directory. We're making a directory called logs. We're CDing into it, and then we're creating Celery logs. And then we CD back out again, okay? That's all we're doing. It looks like a crazy command, but you can normally work out what we're trying to do. There we go. So that one command has created this logs directory. Within that, we've got a Celery log. So this is our Celery log. Okay. Go back into the tutorial. You now need to add some environment variables. So open .env file and change the following variables to match your own. Follow this tutorial to get your app password. This is the Google app password that I was talking about. This allows us to send an email from Gmail. So do not reply email, Google app password. Go back into env, and we will bobby@didcoding.com. And in my case, actually, I don't need it because I've got this saved in my environment variables on my machine. So I'll remove it. Again, if it doesn't work, if the email doesn't get sent, we will actually go on to Google and create an app password. Do you know what? Let's do that. Let's do that. It won't take long. So if I go in Google, we go into Gmail. Sorry, account. You need to go into account. Then you go into security. I've got 4 app passwords. You need to have 2-step verification on. Let me sign up. It's not this one at all. It's sign in. That'll allow you to get to the app password screen. We want to select the app device that you want to. So right, select app. Can you see that? Yes, you can. So we want mail. Select device. In this case, I'm on a Windows computer. And generate. And it will come up with the app password. Don't worry, I will delete this app password when I'm done. So copy that. Go back in here. Dump it in here. Okay, save. Nice and easy. Where are we? Okay, we now need to add database credentials to PostgreSQL. While still in the .env file, add the following. Okay, so, and I'll show you what I'm doing here actually. So, save them in there. You can see that SQL engine is here. Okay, if you remember in the project we built not so long ago, if we go to settings.py, we've added this database dictionary. So the default database is here. So engine, so we're using this .env here, and we're using os.environ.get to get SQLite. So we'll be getting that from a .env file. So what was it? Is it environ? Is it in here? Oh, sorry, it is. Sorry, my bad. So python.env. Okay, that's the dependency that we need to do this. So that library will allow us to access a .env file. Okay, so we'll check the project for anything in there. So settings, we've got this OS, so OS is operating system.environ.get. So it will look for SQLite. Now, SQL engine. If it can't find that variable in a .env file, it will default to SQLite 3. But because we've got it in .env, it will be the correct. Okay, sorry, I'm putting that in the wrong one. We don't want it in there. Right, you can see I've got 2 env files. This one here is the incorrect one. You want the env file to be next to the .env.template. So it looks like in the project it's got an env file in there. We don't want that there. So let's remove that. Delete. Okay, we want it in here. Okay, so now we've got one. We don't need it in the back-end project. We need it in the root directory here. So that's everything we need. Let's save that. Go back into here. We should now be able to fire up an image and container. This can be done with a single command. So Docker compose see if this works, shall we? So docker compose -f docker compose.yml. So it's accessing this .yml file, and then up. So let's fire it up, and D and -- build. Let's see if it works. You will need to have Docker open and running to do this. Okay, it's going through all of the commands that we've got in Docker compose. We won't go through this in detail. While it's firing it up, we can go through. So I've got the services, I've got a database. Okay, so we're using Postgres. Happy days. The app, so it's accessing backend. The Docker file is here. And then the container name is did Django schedule jobs v2 Django app. We'll need that to access the actual container when it's running. Okay, we've got Redis, pulling that straight from an image. We've got Celery worker, and then we've got Celery beat, and lastly we've got Flower. Okay, this is the port 5555. Okay, so when you've got time, go through it. But basically, these are the different containers. This is why it's a multi-container Docker. Has it worked? So it's created them, create, and we've got start. So if we go into Docker, saying here we may have an error. That could be because the Docker, it is. Right, so okay, let's go down. So this will close off the images. I had this problem when I was going through this, testing it the other day. So we go in here now, if we minimize, so you can see that above or around my big head. Change that to LF and so you save. Okay, let's do it again now. So Docker will be able to fire up the containers, not a problem, whether it says CRLF or not, but it just doesn't like it. The containers won't run correctly. And that's where we were getting that error, I hope. There we go, it's creating and starting. You can see the containers. I've tried to keep them quite easy to understand. So essentially this is the Redis container, the database, the Django app, Celery beat, Celery worker, and Flower. Celery worker, that's what we'll be using to fire the tasks off. Oh, we seem to still have an error. Okay, what have we got? Okay, what have we got here? Let's have a little debug. None type, allowed hosts. So what have we got? Okay. What I'll do, I'll debug it quickly and come back in a second. Nice and easy to fix that one. Okay, so in the .env file, when I copied it across from the other one, it was an incorrect file. It didn't have all of the debug production and stuff like that in it. So if I show you what I've done, I simply just added in the other bits and pieces from the template file. So in Docker, some of the bits, it was just saying it couldn't find allowed hosts and things like that, which is, you know, that's not a hard thing to fix at all. So I've saved that in .env. Go to terminal, new terminal. Go back into here, copy. Let that do what it's trying to do. Shouldn't take a second. Okay, so it's recreated, because I didn't actually close them down a second ago, but we're starting them all up. It looks like they all started. Let's have a look. Where's green? That's a good sign, right? So if that's green there, saying it's running. Okay, all of my containers are running. So you can see you've got Redis, database, Django app, Celery beat, Celery worker, and Flower. Okay, so we now go back in here. We go into localhost. That's working. So Flower. Remember, the port is 5555. You can see, have we got tasks? No, we haven't. Hang on. Okay, no, another bug. It wasn't a bug. So me messing around with the env files kind of put me out of sync. So what I've done is I've deleted the .env file that wasn't needed anymore. And what I've done is you can see here Celery Broker and Celery Backend. So if this happens to you, this is why. So I've left essentially these two in when I should have removed them. That was one of the first things we did in this tutorial. So what this is saying is the Celery Broker and Celery Backend is incorrect. We don't want that configuration in this project now. We can remove them. Because those variables are in the .env file, it's using them when it shouldn't be. It should be firing this to Flower. That's why Flower couldn't find the worker. So if we'll save that, you can see I've just removed the, we need to build this again. So up dash D dash B build. And that will now go ahead and build it all in here. Won't take a second, and hopefully with any luck it will work. And if it doesn't, I'll probably record the video again and it'll be a little bit less clunky for you. But it should work this time. I don't see any reason why it shouldn't. We've changed everything. It's quite a basic application at the end of the day. Okay, so they've all started. In Docker, it's green, which is a good sign. Yeah, all is good. There we go. Oh, panic. So I've just basically just refreshed the screen, and you can see now that the Celery worker is there. Tasks, it will, in a second, it'll have a couple of tasks in there. It should have the 30-second function. So if you looked at the last video, we had two tasks. We have an ad hoc task that is fired as and when a user signs up, an email is sent using a worker, and there's a regular interval task, so a scheduled task that gets, a scheduled job that gets sent via Celery as a task every 30 seconds. So that will show up there in a few seconds. So if we test this now, actually let's look in here. If you experience an error, then make those changes. You should now be able to visit the site. We will do. Let's go there. Happy days. And you can access the Docker container to run Python and Django scripts. Okay, so one of the things we need to do to access the admin page, the built-in admin page that Django comes with, you need a super user account. Well, because we've got a new database now, we have no super user. So we need to create that. We don't necessarily need to create it, but for testing purposes, we will. Okay, the way you access the container is with this command. So it's docker exec -it, then you name the app container. So remember that was in the Docker file. Docker compose. That's the container name. Okay, so this is what we want to access. Okay, so, and that will access the container as root. So if we put ls, you can see, can you see that? Let me bring that up the screen. There you go, you can see that, right? So if we put ls, it lists the basically all of the directories within the code directory. Now in Docker file, this one here, you can see here we're creating a directory called code. We're copying the project to that directory, and that is now our working directory. That is what we're looking at here. That we've accessed the application and we're in the code directory. Okay, that's what we're looking at. So we've got the Docker file, we've got the app, that's the Django app directory, the entry point, we've got logs, manage.py, requirements, static, and users. So that is the project. Okay, and because we've got access to manage.py, we can now go Python manage.py create super user. And that is what we would normally do. Bobby, don't need an email address, password. Okay, and then you can just put exit. Okay, so now we've got a super user. We can sign into the admin page, which we'll do quickly. No, we won't. We won't sign up because if I sign into the admin page, I won't be able to access the sign up page because that's just the way we coded the project. So what we'll do, we will sign up. We'll sign up as bobby@decoding.com. It needs to be a legitimate email because an email is being sent, right? So if you put a dodgy email, you won't receive anything. So we'll just put a password, be any password, put sign up. Okay, saying welcome to your user account, and a welcome email is on its way. So we go back into Flower and update tasks. You can see that every 30 seconds since I've been talking to you, there's been a task every 30 seconds. Okay, and success means that it worked. Doesn't do anything, but it's working, right? Then you got this one here. This is the ad hoc one. So this is user.task.create email. So by signing up, we've used Celery to send that email. If I go into my email here, was it Gmail? I should have one from me. There we have it. Okay, so decoding to me, none. There's no CC details. But hi Bobby at decoding.com. Welcome to our site. Okay, so it all worked. Happy days. And flower here, you can click in here and it'll give you a bit of a rundown of the actual task itself. So it's fantastic. This all works. I'm over the moon. What else is on here? We've got the create user, super user, and finish. Let's check out our project is running correctly. We've just done that, okay? So that's what we've just done. So conclusion, we have now Dockerized our Django project and it works perfectly. The new project is Dockerized, is a Dockerized Django app that uses Celery, Celery Redis, and Flower to handle scheduled jobs and logging, okay? So that really is the end of this video. Okay, I haven't said this yet, but if you'd like to support us and help us create videos quicker and of a better quality, then be my guest. There's a link to my Patreon page in the description below. And also, please subscribe. Click that bell so you're notified every single time I add a video to the channel. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye-bye.